Hi, this is Lori Leisure with Interior Design Community. This is To the Trade, our podcast. We have with us Shannon Ggem. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Lori.
Please, please, please. We want to hear everything about you, but we're going to start with learning a little bit about you and your business. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. So I am a whole home soup to nuts interior designer, full service in Los Angeles area, but we work all over the country. Tiny team, and we have a great time doing a gut remodel all the way to full furnish and sometimes even turnkey, but more rarely, or new build. So we love it. And we generally serve clients with dogs. We have a super niche clients with dogs and often clients who are an attorney married to a therapist, whichever configuration that falls in. Very specific.
I love that though. I mean, it's great that you know your client so well. I think that most designers probably are like, wow, how does she know that specifically? But that's fantastic. The reason we're having you on too is because, you and I have been friends for a long time, and your interest and your expertise in biophilia and how you bring that to the client space has always very much intrigued me. I've always been super impressed with your work there. You give clients, in my opinion, of looking at your work, a peaceful, serene space that makes them feel connected to nature in a way that I don't usually see in design. So tell me how you first started getting interested in making that part of your practice.
I love to talk about this. I'm so excited that you're going to let me talk about this. Uh, I was so lucky. I was a member of ASID Los Angeles, and I happened to run into um, Laura Schwartzmuller, who is 4 Point Design, and she was the president of ASIDLA at the time. And she was running a wonderful project, which was a feasibility study and potential actual remodel of the Ronald McDonald House, which, if anyone doesn't know, is it's like a hotel space basically across from major medical centers for children across the country. And it's obviously funded by McDonald's. So people can stay there free of cost while their child undergoes chemotherapy. The child can stay there often. Whole families can stay there. So Laura was running this project, and I was selected as one of 5 designers to work on it. And I got to do an immunosuppressed suite and another immunosuppressed style room. And the coolest thing was that we were gifted a enormous lecture series on wellness design and how literally neuroscience um, shows us that healing time can be increased, and it can be increased by certain design elements. So that blew my mind. I've always known that design was very, very important to the human experience and that you could better lives with it, but I didn't have the data. And then suddenly there's the evidence, the data. So people call it evidence-based design, people call it biophilia, people call it wellness design. There's all sorts of names for it. But basically, if the neuroscience shows, or the healing time shows, or studies show that it's physically better for the human being, the design that it can be achieved through design principles, oh my gosh, we all should be doing it. It's the most unbelievable, wonderful thing.
It really is. And you have incorporated that into your own life too. I mean, I've been to your house, you have nature all around you, and you have it inside your home as well. And how is that impacting your own health?
I we had a house in the city, and we loved the city. I had never lived out of the city, and neither had my husband. So we had remodeled this beautiful Spanish colonial revival 1920s Los Angeles home, classic, like everything you think of it had. It had views all the way to the ocean. We didn't even need the air conditioning. I mean, it was spectacular, but it was a hustle. We lived in the city. So we were like, it's hard to do day-to-day life for us. So we were just at the point in our lives where maybe it was not time for that. And my husband's skin was turning like the color gray.
Oh,
And when we sold the house, I sold it furnished because I think any designer can relate to the fact that your clients give you fabulous things and you're like, you're going to give me this century sofa because we're getting you a new sofa. Okay. So I had all this fabulous stuff but it was too much. So we sold the house furnished and it freed us up to live anywhere. So we found a 1920s cabin in the mountains on a lake. Now, a lake and broad views of nature like that is a known biophilic principle, right? It's a known neuroscience proven factor in making you feel better. It's a serotonin releaser, and that's good. So he changed color. We rented it for 6 months because we didn't know if we could handle living in a rural environment. He changed color. He turned a normal person color. And I was like, oh, we are staying. We are staying. It has a leaky roof. It's falling apart. We're buying this thing
I
because
love
it was
that.
worth it. It's worth it.
Well,
It's
you've
just
built like a paradise. I mean, it really, I love the pictures you post. And if you follow Shannon Ggem Design on Instagram, you'll see it's just like, what? Is that real? That is screensaver. I don't know. I don't understand. And then I
it
went there
speaks to,
and
there's a
it's real.
biophilic principle. Yeah. You went there and you took fabulous drone footage.
Yes. Yeah, my
I feel like
husband's
you
into
have a lot of
droning.
that.
So yeah.
You have all 4 seasons, which I love for you.
We do. We do. Sometimes a little longer than I want.
But a
But
room full of
you,
windows.
yes, yeah. So, but you also really do that for your clients too. I have, just seen the work that you do to bring nature into the environments that you work with and to really honor um really organic materials. And it must drive you crazy when you see biophilia used in ways that, you know, you know what I'm talking about, how
I do.
the fake plants, things like that. This is biophilia. It's a clickbait bait in some ways, in design sometimes. So does that drive you crazy? And what do you do about that?
So certain things are true about it. So even a fake plant has has a value, right? But I see it oversimplified and it makes me a little nuts. You're absolutely right. Because biophilia is it's a very thick, dense thing. And the best source for people to go to learn all about it is Terrapin Bright Green. That's what I recommend all the time. It's just a great way to read through it. But ultimately, biophilia is just the innate love of human beings of other living organisms. So living is a word in there, right? Or natural living is often part of it. So we do love stone as well. It has organisms, it's hosting organisms, but we do innately love these things. And the reason why is deeply evolutionary. If you picture how people used to live in a mud hut or in a little cave cut out of a knoll, that's a deep connection to the earth. And the same principles that applied to those ancient human beings, ancient human versions of ourselves, live in our bodies today. That's evolution. It takes a really long time to change it. So when I see it kind of distilled to like a thing that comes in a container across many oceans, I think that's not really biophilia because it's so many things. But one thing that immediately comes to mind for me always is the concept of prospect and refuge. And if you picture peeking out of a cave, how you might have the stone surrounding you, and then you have a long view of the savannah. Well, that gives you two things. You're under shelter, so that feels safe, right? And then also you can see a herd of animals that might be a danger to you, or a herd of animals that might be really yummy to you, or you can see the storm clouds rolling in, or you can see the blazing sun that lets you know, oh, it's too hot. I'm not going to go out there right now. So this savanna view, I see it all the time in design because I see horizon lines in people's works. And it's one of the reasons why the human body prefers an architectural line that is continuous. So, when you see a home and everything's a different height, and there's 4,000 different heights. Now I say this with my with my gallery, I have a collected look in my studio, but I'm saying this thing about straight lines and then I have lines all over the place. But when we do architectural lines in interior architecture, we do try to keep them nice and tidy. The top of the cabinets is the top of the cabinets. It's not like this cabinet's this tall and this cabinet's this short, because it looks better. So interior designers are constantly using and processing this information and putting it out for their clients in this way, but they're just not calling it biophilia. But that is part of biophilia. It emulates the Savannah line or the horizon line, right? So these lines that are continuous are pleasing to the human body. So it's less of a disruptor, and you can live better by having principles like that in place. So that's just one example.
I love that. I love that. And I think that those are they're maybe I personally have a huge pet peeve about cabinets that don't go to the ceiling. And I don't think I knew that. That was probably why it's interrupted and there's too many
Probably.
lines and it's maybe driving me crazy.
Probably why, Lori?
Yes, that's probably why. And how do other aspects of if we're not talking just the materials, the organic materials, how many other aspects are coming into, I mean, light and sound are part of that too. So how do you interplay light and sound into client homes to give them that experience of biophilia?
We are constantly trying to encourage more and more natural light and less artificial light. So we jokingly call ourselves the can killers because we love to eliminate ceiling recessed lighting.
I love
I
that.
just love to eliminate it. It's the funnest. So fun in a remodel. So or just, on a plan, like you'll get a plan and it'll be like, oh my God, there's an airport runway in here. There's 4,000 cans. So there's a lot of high quality recess lighting. I don't mean to bash recess lighting at all. I see a lot of kind of arbitrary overuse. But we with the solar tubes, we have as soon as solar tubes happened, I was like, we are all over solar tubes. So we had to kind of detail out, because some people are sensitive to the way the disc looks, the lens of that. So we had to detail out drywall details for how to create like a mini shaft in most conditions, so that lens is up there and they're seeing their beautiful ceiling and they're not seeing that plastic lens, so
Right.
that's one way. We incorporate those wherever possible. We do skylights whenever we can. That has vastly improved. People used to have a general impression, like a market-wide impression, that skylights are really leaky. We don't find that to be the case. We don't get a lot of callbacks about it. The general contractors are very open to it. I don't know if they were or weren't before, but we don't get pushback on skylights usually. But it's great to let people's bodies feel those circadian rhythms. We always make the drapery clear off the glass as much as we can. So the drapery is generally taking up some wall space, instead of crowding the window space. We implement things like, we got to recently use the glass that changes to, from opaque to
Oh,
transparent with a
right.
switch.
Oh,
Honest. That's a gas that does that. How cool is this world we live in?
it is so
So
cool.
it's so cool. So we have these clients, they have a pool guy. That's very common in Southern California. You got a pool guy. And once a week, your pool person is going to be in your backyard. And so once a week, you need that switch. Otherwise, no one's going to see you in your bathroom. You could have a big giant picture window in your bathroom. So we're constantly encouraging and letting in the right kind of light. There's a sound. Am I going on too
No,
long and
no,
long
I
about
love
this?
this. We love this. We love this. Believe me.
There's a consideration about sound versus noise in this too, especially in the city. So you can't just go, I want a window and a window and a window and a window. You have to think about what is going to be out that window. First of all, is it going to be beating face of the sun heat? Like, is there a western exposure? Are you doing something that's messing with the brilliance of the architect? Is it architect approved? Like, make sure that the architects are okay with it, because they understand things about the home and the topography. So you can't just add, I say, oh, we add a skylight. Well, we don't add a skylight. We have the architect and the engineer and the general contractor. Everybody approves where the skylight is going to be, what the pattern of the light is over that. You could make a big mistake and put in a skylight and you could have, searing sun all day long. And your clients are like, oh my God, it's so hot in here. So anyway,
Yeah, you
all
would
this to
not want
say,
that.
sound versus noise. So in city, we have to think about too, are we considering something that's going to add noise? And so noise is like a sound you don't want, like traffic. Sound is a sound that's beautiful. Like you can add a biophilic thing to do would be add a little bit of running water, just a little. It doesn't have to be like a big fountain like the Bellagio or whatever one that is. It just has to be a little sound of water, and that can help displace the noise that you don't want to hear.
Oh, wow. That is so wonderful. And I bet your clients, have they come back to you after you've implemented these changes with testimonials of improved life, improved sleep, things like that?
People feel better. They really feel better. They really are glad that they did their remodel. They see a difference in their day-to-day life. A lot of things can be done in remodel under the existing roof, which can surprise our clients. Um, and so people are like always impressed by better use of spaces, or just um people are always surprised to learn that if they're in that they might be misusing a room because of the quality of light in it. So that's kind of a biophilic thing. Like if you're in a north facing room, you're never going to get that light and bright kind of light in there. North facing light just is not that way. So if you look back through, I'm from Massachusetts originally, so that's the room where you have the library, or you have, a room that you withdraw to, the drawing room, because that's a nighttime room. It's a room that's a refuge room, not a prospect room, right? So you put the breakfast nook in the light and bright space, the south facing one,
Right.
or, if you have to, the southwest or whatever. And then you leave the north so just little moves like that, that old houses that have been remodeled and use has changed and changed and changed. Really, that's the noticeable stuff where clients are like, oh my gosh, this is completely transformed. Or they say, we never use this patio and I don't know why. And then we do a couple things with the sound often, or we work with landscape architects that help create that cloistered feeling. And then they're like, we use it all the time. I have no idea why we didn't use it all these years. And we're like, we know why you didn't use it all those years.
Right, right. And that is what I think in a nutshell, what designers really do when you boil it down is they give clients that, I can't believe I live here feeling. They give them that, you know, I'm using this space that I never use. I mean, and that's just what designers do. They kind of think in this very big way to create experiences in your own home.
Isn't it beautiful? You and I have talked about before how designers are innately using all of the principles, the science of beauty, the biophilic principles, the wellness things. They're making these moves, but they might not call it that.
Right,
We've
right.
talked about that.
Exactly,
There's a
exactly. And
brilliance that
yeah,
lives in the people who innately understand the science of beauty and want to bring it to others. It's a beautiful, beautiful career. And I'm so glad that I'm in it. It's a wonderful way to serve your fellow human, which
it
is what
really
life
is.
is about.
I love that. I love that. And speaking of serving humans too, you are also, I mean, this isn't something we had planned on talking about, but you also make it a point when you are renovating to donate those materials and to work really diligently to get those materials into good homes so that if you are, tearing up flooring or taking out those cabinets, that those go to good places. Now, what can you tell me more about that?
Yes, I am so lucky that I met Steve Feldman of Renovation Angel at KBIZ one year. I love our industry events. They bring us together and it's just a cool way to like expand on your own interests and because there's something there for everyone. So I met Steve Feldman and he's the founder and CEO of Renovation Angel, which has saved thousands and thousands of kitchens from the landfill, luxury kitchens. And he does it by sending a crew to responsibly remove kitchen cabinets. He warehouses them, he sells them online, and then they go to their new home and they're retrofitted and installed. It's an amazing process. It's um it's really, really a great he does it with appliances as well. So he'll buy the whole kitchen, but it makes clients feel uh there's no luxury in waste. There's
Right.
just no luxury in waste.
Right. It makes you
And
feel
clients
good.
know that and
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah.
So when you take that away from the concerns, the list of concerns about endeavoring a big creative experience like a remodel, tailoring a home to your own specification can feel uh maybe indulgent of but it's not. It's a very worthy activity. So taking away that one concern about you're not generating waste, we are reusing this and these, so that is a wonderful part of the process. I've really enjoyed. I'm on the board of um, Renovation Angel, and I just have enjoyed the process and understanding that closed loop.
Yes. And I think that that makes, I know as myself that if I were the client, I would feel guilty about taking out, perfectly good cabinets or perfectly good stone and tossing it into dumpsters. So the fact that it
We
can
can
go
keep
somewhere
it.
and people can use it and it's not, that's not happening is so remarkable. So I'm glad you
I
do
think that
that.
really matters.
Yes, I would
Thank you.
love
And then
more
we keep what's
designers.
good.
Yeah, to take that
We
philosophy
keep it.
on. Yeah, keep it, keep it. Or you
Some
know
things
what?
you
You've
can
also
keep, like
changed things too. Like I know you have a countertop that the client didn't like the polish and you honed it. So if it's possible to save something, you're also committed to that.
I like it. I call that keep what's good. And I have a little hashtag about it. And if anybody uses it, I try to repost it in stories anyway, because it's a great thing that we can do for our clients. And it's not, if you go to a job, every job has a budget. I mean, it does not matter if it's in Bel Air or where it is, they have a budget. So how you allocate that budget matters, right? And you can really get some amazing results if you are able to cross off a huge line item. So I have to be honest, it didn't start from that sustainability place for me. And in my early career, it started from I really want to be able to, get updated furnishings and get them some great art and some drapes. And so it started with a floor and it was acres and acres, a huge house. I mean, just a huge house, just over 10,000 square feet of oak floor. And the idea was, we're going to tear out this oak floor and put in another oak floor. And I was like, yeah, we're going to tear it out. We're going to put, and then I was like, wait a minute. Do we want to tear out an oak floor and put in an oak floor? And that just didn't seem right. And so we ended up being able to just do a light sand and re-stain. And then we did a wax finish, tinted wax finish on that particular floor. It came out absolutely stunning. They absolutely love it. It freed up the budget for the rest of the things the client wanted to do. And it was this huge, wonderful epiphany for me that we can keep these things. The countertop, none of us knew what it was wrong with the countertop at first. And then I was like, you know what? I think it's that it's shiny and a lot of the other colors are coming out and it's bouncing this light around. And so we had it honed in place. And at the time, and I can't say that this will be true ever for everyone, but it was like $11 a square foot to do honing in place. And it just was like, oh my God, that is awesome. I'm not
Right?
throwing away stone. I mean,
I
it's
mean,
so
that's a
cool.
win.
It's
That's a
just a
win.
wonderful.
Yes. So what after you are doing that, we were talking a little bit too about also incorporating, you care about biophilia, you care about how your clients have experiences with nature in their home, you care about where those materials go. How are you managing the relationship with the client too? Are they as on board with those philosophies? Do they adopt that very well? Are you able to have those kind of relationships with them, that they get it and they take that on themselves? Or is it more like, okay, we have this designer and that's her thing, and we're buying into it a little bit, but, or is it something that they really wholly take in and really participate in?
Um, some care more than others to hear about it. They're glad. What I generally find is that people are glad that the biophilic stuff and the wellness and sustainability pieces are there. I also vet as deeply as I possibly can for slavery in the supply chain, because there's also no luxury in human rights violations. So I definitely like to make sure that I feel it's one of our professional responsibilities. I don't buy one sofa every 10 years like the general consumer. I buy 10 sofas every year, if not more. It's very important that I know where every piece of that sofa is coming from if I'm having it made, or the general practices that the manufacturer is putting forward. So that's the stuff where I can tell usually if someone's eyes are glazing over about the sustainability stuff or the low VOC stuff or whatever. They don't I don't trouble them with it. I just say these principles are here. This is what you're getting in your professional design experience. And it's different. It's different than just the life experience of walking around being a retail customer. When you have a professional designer, I feel like it's a extra layer. There's the duty of care, and I really want to make sure that I am providing a professional level experience. So I think that's part of all of our responsibilities.
I think you do a great job at that. You are excellent at that. I mean, you do embody all of those principles in yourself, and you make sure that, I mean, even if they don't really take that on, I think that that luxury service has to, at this, of caring about those things, has to make them feel better about what they're buying, and giving them that warm, fuzzy feeling that, that this is all going to be a good move karma wise too. You know what I mean? No,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just like we have enough problems. We don't, we don't need to
Yeah.
obviously use slave labor for a sofa, you know? So, I love that you do that. Now, how about those relationships with clients? Do you feel like as a designer, you are in LA, maybe it's more of a laid back philosophy than in the Northeast, but, how are you with your clients, and how do you incorporate, that in your relationships with them? I'm curious about how you work with your clients and how that impacts your own sense of well-being too. Because as we know, designers are completely stressed out and they feel very much overwhelmed. And, you have such a great practice where you've built a lot of synergy and balance. How are you able to do that?
Oh, I like to put kindness forward in my approach with clients. And I definitely have been through waves. I think every professional has the moment where they're like, oh my God, I'm overcommitted and I'm undercompensated and I feel not respected and I don't feel listened to or whatever. And for me, that has generally been about rate adjustment. And
Yes.
I'm contemplating my rate right now because of, inflation and things. And so I'm doing that study. And it's difficult to do because we're all in different markets, and even our nearest and dearest design colleagues, it's hard to have like radical transparency about something so deep in your business. So I'm trying to practice radical transparency with my colleagues, to see if I can make sure that I never get to that place anymore. But rate adjustment was what saved me in my early career when I was feeling very, very underappreciated. And un fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you take it, I learned that when my rate is correct and a little bit higher, people really, really value my time and opinion, and it very much differentiates it from literally my breaking point was what the UPS person's opinion was. I love UPS and their delivery service, but I don't know what the UPS guy's house looks like. And I don't know why my client asked the UPS guy and then weighted his opinion the same as mine, but that happened to me.
Oh
The
gosh.
UPS guy gave his opinion, and my client was like, I'm unsure because the UPS guy says. And I thought, I'm not charging enough. I
Right.
mean, if it's not the same, it's not the same. I'm traveling. So, and you never want to be in that position to say, oh, well, I go to two or three shows a year and I'm a leader in my industry and I speak at, you don't want to have to like read your resume to your clients. Although I do now at every single discovery call or meeting, it's very awkward for me. I do like a 3 to 5 sentence. This is who I am and this is why I'm, I'm a professional. This is what makes me a professional because you don't really want people running around thinking that your opinion is the same as a non-professional. And I think one of the things is your rate. I think if your rate is lower, I also only choose clients now. I've learned to trust over time that work is coming. So even if I'm things that we haven't looked at in a while, marketing materials and other kind of back office stuff, and we try not to panic because the clients come, they come. So I try not to say, oh, I'll just take whatever, because that can really, I wait for clients that I like with projects that make sense, because that works in both directions. It's a form of kindness to myself and the team, but it's also a form of kindness to the client. Because if you take a client that you don't really like their project or you don't really like them, guess who they're spending a year with? A person who doesn't like them. Oh, yuck. That's not that fun for a creative experience. They're going to know, like, it's not, I'm not saying that every job I've not taken was someone I didn't like. I'm just
No,
saying
no.
that, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
saying
it
like
has to click.
all the markers
All
have
the
to be there.
all the
All the
markers
things
have
have
to be
to be
there.
there. It
Right.
has to be my size job. It has to be a person that I feel is an energy match, that we're going to do it right. They have to like our style of work. We have a couple of gates for clients to pass through before full service proposal, so that they understand how we work, what the pace of work is, what the deliverables look like, because that would be awful too. Is you sign a big, huge contract, you tell yourself, oh, I'm good, I've got my full roster for the next year, and then you don't, because somebody falls out because, oh gosh, they didn't understand what they were signing, and now they don't like your work style. Ugh.
Right.
So we make sure that there are a couple of gates before that moment. So
I
that's
think
some ways that we take care of ourselves.
I think it's really important to take
Mainly,
care of yourself for sure. I mean, I think that having those boundaries and having those processes to make sure it's the right client. I mean, it has to be what separates a designer who's a lot happier with their personal life than one that isn't.
it helps. It helps to be excited when you see your client's name in your text. To be like, oh, cool, this person reached out. Like I'll be psyched to see them. There's never a day that I am not excited about the meeting that I have. I'm always excited. I'm
I
always
love
excited
that.
to see the people, excited to see the house, excited to show them what we cooked up. I love thinking about them. One of my questionnaire questions is I ask them what music they listen to, because when you have a bunch of clients, you never want to like bring one person's aesthetic into another's. So I turn on their music that they said in the questionnaire is their favorite music, and it's a cue for my brain to switch over to them.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that's
That's such a great tip. Oh my goodness. I love that one. I mean, I know designers are going to use that one. That one's so fantastic.
good.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Like it.
And you and I have had multiple questions, multiple conversations about mindfulness and how that can help anyone really, develop habits that help them reduce stress. And, one of our concerns is always, how can you make your clients' lives better? But we also want to make our designers' lives better too. And I think that's often our designers are forgetting themselves in that equation. It's always about the service of others and it's less about the service of themselves. And how are you able to utilize mindfulness in ways that help you with your design practice and help you manage that stress level that comes with design?
Oh, there's so many. I use so many ways. Okay, so in Southern California, we had some of the wildfires, and one of them was very severe in my area, and I'm in service to my community as well. So I was in service, and so I picked up meditation practice, which I'd been told over and over works, and it reprograms your brain, and had been explained to me in a lot of great ways, and I totally believed it, but I had never actually done it. And the thing that flipped me was a app on my phone. It's called Simple Habit. That happens to be the one I use. It's subscription. And it's 10 minutes. So that's what I loved about it. And I was like, I'm going to do this in a non-traditional way. I'm going to do it while I'm driving. I'm going to do it while I'm taking a shower. My phone's on a bandolier. So, and has always been on something similar. So I hang my phone in the shower while I take a shower, listening to the meditation, because I figured doing it, in these ways is better than not doing it at all. Because
Right.
one thing that was stopping me was, oh, I have to be wearing certain clothes and laying on the floor. Like, I never lay on the floor. Why would I have to lay on the floor for something? It's supposed to help me. So it was like I was putting crazy stuff around it. And I just figured all I have to do is listen for 10 minutes a day. That's all I'm going to ask of myself. And boy, I did not expect the transformative effect of that. I did not expect it. It's an amazing thing that helped me release some of the burdens that I was putting on myself about literally like a drapery ring emergency. I'd have a drapery ring emergency. And then and then Lori, I would spiral about like, does this mean something else? Like, does this mean that I'm bad at, whatever? Like I'm bad at drapery rings, like I'm bad at whatever. And it turns out that was just like a baked into me kind of panic that doesn't need to be there and isn't actually helping. So it was wonderful to have this kind of reset and in my 40s that allowed me to find some room in my brain to just let those things move through so I could process toward the solution more quickly with more resilience and better and in a better mood. So it really was like shockingly transformative. And I couldn't believe actually that I hadn't done it earlier with as many times as people tried to phrase that to me, the importance of that. I just couldn't make myself do it until I released the need to like lay on the floor in a white nightgown. Like, what?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that. We put those boundaries, around that. You can't work out unless you're going to the gym or in your workout clothes, but you can go for a walk. You can, it's those little boundaries that they're like mental blocks that make us procrastinate and say no when we should be saying yes. We know we should be saying yes for our own mental health, for our own peace. And we just kind of put this, I can't because of this. I can't because of this. And I think that's great that you found a way to incorporate it when in a way that was convenient for you. And so many designers probably listening right now are in the same boat. They don't have, a half an hour to meditate to make them feel better. They're not going to get in their yoga clothes and get on the floor, but they are driving around. They are going to be driving around, so they can do it in a car. They are going to be taking a shower, so they can do those things, and it helps them maybe feel that sense of peace in a different way. Because I just think about it, a lot. You know, I think about how many designers are spending sleepless night tonight because they're worried about something. And I remember talking to you when I was worried about something, and you were like, you are capable, you are going to figure it out. And, you know, I've been through a lot of therapy, but I was like, you know what? I am capable and will figure it out. And that's what they need to remember, is that they are capable. They will figure it out. This is a problem they can solve, and it's temporary. And these feelings are temporary, and they need to let it go. It's not an emergency. There's no one's dying. You know, there's a little card we shared years ago that went viral that was like, no one's dying. The sofa's just going to be late. And
Yeah.
that, you know, I really want it was like a little business card, and I really want to get a bunch of those printed and just hand them out to designers at any trade show so that they can hand them out to their clients sometime, you know, because I know that giving them that sense of peace would feel so great, because it like really does worry me that there are designers that are going to be feeling that right now. That I guarantee you there's a designer that's listening to this that is already thinking this way and doesn't know how to manage that or regulate that. So if it's an app, if it is watching a YouTube video, if it is taking a moment of peace and going for a walk and, you know, just taking in the nature, however you find that so that you can let that go is really super important. It's so important for you to have that sense of peace and that sense of tranquility in your free time so that you can be creative. Because I imagine those worries do affect your creative ability. Don't you think?
Oh, they make you, oh yeah, Lori, absolutely. I love what you were saying earlier. You pointed out, and I think it's so important to always talk about that this is a service industry. So in service, we pick up stuff from others too. And a lot of people who are in interior design have like, you know, like they can read subtext, and they can read the subtext of a space, and you know, so it sometimes we can hear things as more harsh than they are, or we pick up on our clients' feelings, and it's not a guarantee that your client is in this fabulous headspace doing this wonderful creative endeavor. But I definitely think that, geez, just these little things, there's a wormhole in the studies about healing principles and how they relate to design. You can go down that wormhole, and I certainly have. And one of the things is music. You know, you'll find other healing things that aren't design. And Mozart uh is a known healing increaser. You know, that's what shows in the studies. So that's another tactic that I use. This is like kind of unfriendly. I hope it's not horrible, but if I'm going to showrooms, I can't, if I'm overwhelmed and I really need to focus, I'll put on big headphones that people can see, and then I'll play Mozart while I walk around, because it just keeps me like focused on the thing I'm doing. And there's not a lot of like picking up on other people's energy, which I think a lot of designers do. I think that's because that's who chooses to be in service industries generally, is people who speak the subtext of other humans. And so it's
Yes.
a little it can be your special superhero ability, or it can be a crippling thing. And if you allow it to get too deep in there, it can disrupt the work that you're trying to put out. So that's I wear my headphones, might be a little bit weird. I'm just like, hi, and then I walk
I got it. I get it. I love that though, because it is protecting your space so that you are able to, like you said, concentrate and to take things in and to be able to experience what you need to experience in the space. You have limited time. I think that's another big issue is designers are strapped for time. And, you know, we talked a little bit before we started about our audience, and our audience we know is about 72% women. You know, they're middle age-ish I mean, we have all over the world and all different types of designers, from new designers to very, very experienced designers. But our main core audience is is that person. And so we think about that a lot, and we think about this, the service industry aspect and the empathy aspect, and how we can serve the design community by helping the whole designer, that, that person that has maybe kids or a husband or, an ex-husband, or, kids are in college, or kids are older, they're still in school, and they're bringing them to school and then they have to deal with the client, and how are they able to fit in taking care of themselves? Because that is the hardest thing I think most women face, is taking care of ourselves. And I think it's even harder if you're someone who, just because of personality is in that service role and wants to please others and wants to, to give to others.
And has a superpower where they can hear the
Right.
subtext. The
Yes.
subtext isn't meant for you. Close that out. Like,
Right.
if the client is saying, I like it, I'm fine with it. Oh, the delay, I'm fine with that. Take that. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Even though they're
Don't
saying it in
go
a
home
way that,
with,
they're a
she
little bit
said she's
pissed.
fine, but I can tell she's not fine. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
none of your
Yeah.
business if you're secretly not fine. If she said she's fine, she's fine. But but we do have to protect our creativity. And that's the weird part about this particular world, is that we're in service, but we're also creatives at root, and we're business people often. It's an extremely complicated business. It's as complicated as a business can be. And there's all sorts of different ways of doing it too. For us, because I'm whole home, and I'm only whole home because I learned from a whole home designer. Frankly, I did not know that you could do anything but whole home. I thought all design was whole home, so I didn't know. So I think client selection and project selection, and the way those two go together, is the root of taking care of yourself, because then you can say, okay, there's this hip new area of town that I heard about. I need to go walk that. I want to go walk that. So you book a lunch with a friend and you go to that hip new area of town. Well, if you have the wrong kind of client, you're thinking the whole time, oh, that client's mad because I haven't gotten back to them about bleep de bleep. If you have the right kind of client, you're thinking, my client's going to be so psyched when I tell them about this thing that I saw that relates back to the thing that we were talking about the other day for their bathroom tile. You know, it's just a completely different experience to have a client you're kind of afraid you're upsetting all the time, versus a client that you're in sync with and they like your work style.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that you're right about that. But what if you do end up with a client that is in that headspace? It's also really important to, make sure that you're protecting your own, peace and harmony, that even if that is the scenario that you find yourself in. Because clients, even in the best case scenarios with the best onboarding, you can sometimes end up with a client that doesn't get it, or life change happens to them mid-project. I mean, projects are long. So something can happen, like they get divorced in the middle of a project, which happens, or someone dies in the middle of a project, which is also very terrible. But also people change or circumstances change. And that can put pressure on someone who's probably a lovely person in a different scenario, but in this scenario isn't reacting the way that you would think. And it's still very important to recognize, I'm professional, I'm doing a good job, I have that in me, and I am capable. And their feelings about that are less important than my feelings about that, so protecting that, even when their emotional stuff is going on, is really super important. And it's not that you don't want to serve your client, and it's not that you don't want your client to be happy, because of course you do. I mean, you're in a service industry, you absolutely do. But it is not more important than your own feelings about your professionalism and your job, because you're the one living that. It's your business, right? Or you're working for business, and it's still your profession. So protecting that boundary and and
I love
recognizing,
all that, Lori.
you
That's
know,
so wise. That's such wisdom.
well, I
I
mean,
love it. Lori,
years of,
you're
we
using
both
an
have had
AI
years of
tool.
this
Yeah,
conversation, right? So
true.
it's,
You're using today, you're using an AI tool, right? To
yes,
summarize.
yes, I am.
So that's a tool that's now available to us for, you get those when a client, we've had clients go through life changes and they're not exactly themselves. So if you get one of those emails, you can use the summarize tool.
Right,
I use
right,
a email program called Superhuman. And so you can use the summarize tool and go, okay, this is what's really needed in this
right,
situation. And then, as you said, rely on your professional business practices and make sure that you're meeting those normal milestones that you meet in all of your client work, and make sure that you're keeping a lovely record. I have a lovely, wonderful law firm that helped me create my contract. And the law firm taught me this. They said, whatever you write to clients ever, always consider it a letter to the judge. Always consider it a tool that they're going to use in mediation. So make sure that you are very clear and concise and not offering a lot of stuff and not offering emotional stuff, and, keeping it extremely crisp and professional. And that'll help them too. That'll help them navigate their time as well. Even though it might feel good to engage in, an emotional outlet with you, it's not really, that doesn't really make sense for professionals to engage in with their
right.
clients going through something. It can get not too tangled.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And it's better to kind of keep those boundaries and even if until the project is at least over. If you want to be friends afterwards, like really close friends afterwards, have at it, but try to stay out of that during the
And
project.
careful with social. If a
Yes.
client is going through a life change, you got to be careful with your social. You can't be like, look at me and now I'm on a boat. Look at me and now I'm skiing. Look at me. Because then they're like, why aren't you calling me back?
Right.
You're
Right.
skiing. And then you're
Right.
like, oh, I just went skiing for one day, whatever.
Right.
But you got to think about, it's just kindness, right? It's all just kindness in the end. It's just like, oh, someone's hurting. And how can we be kind to them in this
Right.
situation? What is the kindest thing to do? And the kindest thing to do is probably be very, very crisp, professional at that,
Right.
if that kind of thing occurs. But that thing, you were saying something so true, and I wanted to get back to it about working out. I had a bad car accident. I got rear-ended on the highway. So if you imagine how fast someone is going on the highway, it was that kind of traffic where you're going 45 and then you're going 0. So we were going 0, but the kid behind me didn't know because he was texting.
Please.
So I watched it in my rear view mirror, and he rear-ended me and it herniated 5 discs.
Oh,
So that was just awful. And it was awful if I had a walker. It was 2 years. It was just horrible. And I finally got the surgery. I got disc replacement surgery. Um, but all that time, why am I telling you all that?
I'm
Oh,
great.
I
People
have to
want to talk
go.
to me.
I have to go to PT and also Pilates to try to regain strength,
Right.
that was lost by being sedentary, not by choice. And so that's the thing that I had to do. I had to release that you wear special clothes to Pilates or PT because I need to work as well. So I sometimes end up at Pilates in jeans or in, the leggings that I'm wearing that I'm going to put a dress over in a minute, because I have to work it into my life, and I just need to let it take that space. And I get in my own way all the time with that stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be late. Maybe I shouldn't go. No, just go.
Just
Just
go.
go.
Just
Be
do the
late.
thing.
Go.
Yeah, you don't
Do the
have to be
thing.
perfect. And that's another part of
Ugh.
being a designer is that pressure I think designers put on themselves to look perfect, to be perfect. Like if they aren't projecting the brand that that is going to let everyone down, or it's going to show that they're not as professional as they are, or lead to people not trusting them. But I can tell you myself, I've watched, video. I love TikTok. I'm on social all the time, as you know, because of interior design community, but I watch TikToks. I watch my designers all day long. it's my full-time job. So I have seen amazing videos where a designer was just no makeup, you know, just being casual and just sharing philosophies and sharing ideas and I find that endearing. And that's the thing I almost posted. I haven't posted this yet, but it's something I'm planning on posting. So I did this post that was really just about, and I happened to be in my workout clothes and I had no makeup on. I had my hair up and I was just talking about marketing. And I had this real epiphany. I was talking to my husband and I had this epiphany that marketing is tough for interior designers because authenticity means so much to them that they don't want to come off as ingenuine. And like, so that when they are marketing, sometimes they feel like they're saying, look at me, or they're not being true, to them, true to themselves. Like if I'm sharing that project and I'm sharing it again, that doesn't feel good to them. So they don't end up being fearful of it and not doing it because it feels inauthentic, and authenticity is a cornerstone of interior design. And you can do that. You can share that post. You can repost the same profile pictures. Your client hasn't seen that. If you're doing it and you're doing it 6 times a year, if you only have 60 images and you're doing those same 60 images, twice, 6 times a year, your client or your potential client hasn't seen that image. Yes, you might bore the other interior designer that's following, but you're certainly not going to bore the potential client that is trying to come to your page and learn more about you and what your process is. And you can always talk about different things in that profile picture and in that portfolio picture. You could talk about the cabinetry in one post. You could talk about the problems you had with the sink in another post. You could talk about the lighting and how that, it's all about the knowledge that only you have and you were able to share it. And in that post that I was doing it, I also thought a bigger point was to just put this post out there with me, no makeup, me, my hair up, me in gym clothes, and say, now you watched all of that. You thought about the marketing, but how many of you would go on with no makeup, with bad angles and wrinkles and not be embarrassed to post that? You have to remember, but did you judge me for that? And would you judge yourself for that much harsher? And I think about that. And I think that that's that thing that I think the designers aren't doing is that, get over it. Get over it. Get over yourself. You are great. You can just go for it. And I want more designers to realize that they are so cool. And everybody wants their opinions about everything because they lived life in such a cool designed way. Even the way that they think is so cool. So they need to stop judging themselves so harshly. Don't you think?
Oh, Lori, that was beautiful. We all needed to hear that. That was beautiful. What a wonderful thing you just said. Oh my God. I am a I am a believer in the filters. I'm so grateful for the filters.
Oh, who
And
doesn't
I
love a
have a
filter?
reason. I have a reason. My reason is that I won't go on. I'm too vain. I won't. So because I had before I was a interior designer, I was an actress. And so first you send out your headshot, right? And that's retouched. Your headshot is retouched. Then they invite you to the audition. And so they see you, so that's part of you showing them. So they've chosen you partially because of how you look. And then you go to a costume fitting, you go to a makeup trial, you go to an on-camera test sometimes, and they test all those things. They look at you. So a lot of it is, so all that's happening before you even get to the set. And then you get to the set, and then they do your makeup for an hour, and then they light you very specifically, and then they put a lens on the camera. So that is a lot of steps to make people look the way they do in media. So when I see judgment about the filters, I'm like, that's no more than the filters are exactly the same thing. The filters are exactly the same thing. So for me, it's been such a hack to put a little filter on in Instagram stories, to use the filter in Instagram stories, save the video, use it everywhere, and it looks like I'm wearing makeup. So if I think of something when I'm walking the dog, I just throw on, and I think
Right.
I look like crap,
Whatever
I throw on
that
a filter.
that is also fine to me. It's the point of doing it, of just not letting yourself get into whatever you need to do. It's the same to me. It's the same as going and doing Pilates and jeans. It's the same
Yeah,
philosophy, right? I mean, it's do it,
yeah.
you know, if being perfect is opposite from doing it. Like if you're just not going to do it because you need it to be perfect, then it's better just to do it. So,
You said something to me so long ago. You said two things to me that I think are really pertinent right now. One is we were talking about marketing in general, and you were saying, advertisements aren't like exact replicas of your experience with the product. And it prompted me to come up with the example, oh yeah, your Budweiser doesn't come with a Clydesdale.
right. No.
Your Budweiser doesn't come with a Clydesdale. Like you don't have to provide that love that experience at all times. And then the other thing that you said was it's kind of none of your business if you like that picture of your work or not.
Right.
And I thought that was such an interesting, awesome way to say it, that like it really is none of my business. Like that's my work, and that's my work. Like that is the work. And so it should be out there for clients to decide, is that the designer for me or not?
Right.
That's the
And I
work.
love your
And
work.
it's
So
and
just,
me going, I love my work too. But like the occasional picture, you're like, I wish I hadn't put that bowl right there. Why did I put that bowl right there? That breaks the beam, blah, blah, blah. And that's the kind of thing we were talking about. We were looking at a photo and I had styled it in a way that I was like, oh, is that like the styling of that year, And you were like, that's none of your business. Don't worry about that. And I was
right.
like, oh, bing, it's none of my business. Like I don't have to judge. It's not for me to be the judge and jury, but I love
No.
the point that you make about like I saw that post of yours. I thought you were fabulous in it. It didn't occur to me to, I think
Yeah,
that's such a great, like showing ourselves the same kindness that we show to clients and others and colleagues and vendors.
exactly.
And
That's exactly my point is we would never think to judge another designer for the things that we judge ourselves on
Mhm.
as harshly as we do. You wouldn't look at another designer's work and say, "Oh, the way she placed that bowl, that whole
So
photograph would have been."
2014.
Yeah, like you just would never in a million years say that in your own head even about another designer's work. I know you would never do that. You're such a cheerleader for other designers. So, we have to give ourselves the same kindness that we're willing to extend to everyone else. And that's really a perfect way to sort of end this because I think that that is what Shannon Ggem really stands for. This whole show is really the epitome of what you are, who you are as a person too. You have that kindness baked in. You have that generosity in your heart baked in to all of your work. And I just can't wait for you all to follow her and experience that for yourselves. Well, thank you,
Oh,
Shannon.
sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much. I loved this today. And I loved hearing your unbelievable giant string of pearls of wisdom. It's like one of those pearl sets that you have to put around like 3 times, like the Art Deco flappers. I mean,
Ah,
really
love it, love
glorious.
it, love it. Bye, everybody, and we'll be back next week.